SEC Chairman Gary Gensler was very disappointed by part of the Ripple XRP judgment. He said so in a video, which I will share with you guys later. I'm going to give you a wild guess as to which part Gary was disappointed about. What do you think? Do you think it was the part where they said that maybe Ripple is not, or XRP is not, in fact, a security? Do you think that maybe Gary is slightly disappointed that his opinion and views on what is and is not a security might not actually be the correct legal opinion? Well, I have one of my favorite guests on today, Bruce Fenton, to discuss that very topic because we love dunking on Gary Gensler. I also have Tradeboi Carti on the back of the show, going to share his views on the market, Bitcoin looking heavy, and a couple trades that he's looking at right now. It's going to be a fun day. You guys don't want to, did I say fun day? Fun day, a fun day. You guys don't want to miss this. Let's go.
Let's go.
What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Streets. Before we get started, please subscribe to the channel and take a basketball and dunk it on the like button right on top of Gary Gensler. It's fun watching the SEC lose. Now, right now, there's not that much to talk about in crypto. We kind of had this big news cycle with all of the SEC enforcement actions and the BlackRock ETF. And now it seems we've reached that sort of midsummer malaise that we always get where you want to go outside and touch grass, maybe stick your toe in a lake or something, an ocean. I don't know what you people do with your free time. But that doesn't mean that just because there's no big news today, there's nothing to talk about, because Gary, quite contrary, is so disappointed. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and bring Bruce on, and we're going to talk about it. But Bruce, before we do it, let me play the video. I don't know if you actually saw it, but let's watch, because I just pulled it up. Here we go.
You won't be surprised. There's a lot of interest in cryptocurrency today.
Really?
Yes.
And is this from ChatGPT?
No. Everything is from humans now. How does the federal court ruling last week in the Ripple case impact your stance toward digital asset regulation? Does it inject urgency into the need for federal legislation to clarify regulatory oversight of this industry?
Look, our mission remains exactly what I spoke about earlier, about investor protection, promoting capital formation, and the markets in the middle. This is a recent decision, just a handful of days ago. We were pleased from that decision, recognizing the importance of protecting investors on the institutional investors in that, and that the court movement with regard to fair notice. And while disappointed on what they said about retail investors, we're still looking at it and assessing that opinion.
What does that even mean?
Leave it to the press club to ask the real zingers, huh? Wouldn't it be neat if the press club had like journalists? Wouldn't that be neat if they had like actual journalists and they said like, why did you meet Sam more than everybody else in the industry combined? Do you have ties with Sam's family? Those would have been the cool questions. But yeah, I was shocked. I thought he would have said, hey, my bad. Looks like I was wrong, made a bad call. The markets have spoken and the courts have spoken. Let's go forward, America, full steam ahead. No,
but my narrative, right? I mean, this very statement, his disappointment, but what he's basing it on, I mean, it basically knocks the legs out of everything he's been arguing in the bulk of these enforcement actions. Binance obviously is its own thing, but Coinbase, I mean, of course he's disappointed because now he has literally nothing to go after Coinbase for.
And they spent all these resources and all this time and money. And, it really was, I think if we look at the history books on the judgment of when his fall was, the Coinbase lawsuit was just a bridge too far. Everybody knows, even people who hate Coinbase know that Coinbase has done every effort they can to be a good actor. They have made every effort possible to comply with the laws. They're not some cowboy out there. They're not, there's no allegation that they stole customer funds or anything like this. So it was just way too far of a reach to try and attack Coinbase on this, nonsensical thing. And now, surprisingly, I didn't see this coming with XRP. I figured that, that would have a harder case, for XRP, but I'm really glad about the decision. I mean, I think it's great. We need to really, really reduce this administrative state. This idea that bureaucrats like Gensler can just make up new rules is a really, really bad idea. So we've got to reduce that. Hopefully this is a big step in that process.
I don't know if you saw this, but Carolyn Pham from the CFTC, obviously she's one of the 5 commissioners at the competing regulatory agency. She says that we're getting clarity here. So she takes the opposite. Last year I said that we were going to see regulatory clarity first in the courts around the definition of security. And I think we've seen that with some very big court opinions that have been released. So CFTC, or at least one commissioner from the CFTC, and I think general sentiment, people are moving on. This is done.
Yeah, I mean, the industry, within 2 hours of this decision, Coinbase and Kraken had both announced that they would do transactions in Ripple. My company announced that we would as soon as we're technically able. We don't have any on rails. We've never worked with XRP before, but I mean, the law of the land as of this decision is that XRP is not a security. If XRP is not a security, then there's a whole. If you kind of draw a line of knowing that Tesla is definitely a security and Bitcoin is definitely not, there's a spectrum in between there, and XRP is closer to the Tesla side than the Bitcoin side. So if that's not a security, things like Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, absolutely, definitely. And I've been arguing this for years. I know they're not securities, but now there's just no argument. Now, even things like ADA, Cardano, things like that there might have been a gray area. People might have claimed it was a security or might not have. I think this is a huge help to those things. The only thing they're going to be able to claim as a security is something that, clearly is like an equity or stock or something.
Yeah, and what I find really interesting is that we're seeing all this pushback, SEC, a lot of lawyers, opinions, and everybody saying the SEC will appeal and that maybe the Judge Torres decision is actually based on false knowledge or that it's a crappy decision or whatever. But what they're not talking about is that even if the SEC appeals, we're talking about a year and a half down the road.
Oh, I think they can't even appeal until next year, and then it would be a couple of years. And of course, Ripple XRP would drag that out forever. They would, because you can go into court and you could say, oh, the lawyer has a previous engagement. Give me 3 months. They'll drag that out. It might be 3 years. And it'll be a different administration, different chair, different rules. By then, Congress might have acted. So this is kind of a done deal. And also, it's sort of like, if this becomes the law of the land and you see lots and lots of exchanges trading XRP, which we probably will and we should see, then it's even harder for a court later on to say, no, this court was wrong. I'm going to reverse the decision. So it's kind of hopefully a done deal. And hopefully I do agree, we are seeing this clarity. It's in a good way too. I mean, if we come out of this with something that says, hey, you've got to register or be an exempt offering under the rules when you issue it using Reg D or whatever. And then once it trades, if it doesn't continue to meet the criteria of being a security, it's not a security. I mean, that's pretty good. That would be kind of a good victory. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if you could, and then maybe it's a small win for the SEC too. They can make you fill out the paperwork when you first sell it. And then once it's out there, you don't have to continue. Because the thing is, and a lot of people don't realize this, this come on in and register thing doesn't work because, something like XRP can't comply. They can't be a publicly traded company. They don't have quarterly reports, statements of beneficial ownership, audited boards, all of these kind of things. And they couldn't do it even if they wanted to. Neither could Ethereum or a lot of other projects.
Yeah, I just love the fact that no matter what happens, basically we have this 2-year Goldilocks period here or something, or even more, where all of these companies can basically say, look, we're not securities, and everybody can be happy. And like you said, the environment will be so different by the time this is even being brought back in the courts that I think it's basically a done deal. I really like it. But interestingly, there are a lot of people out there in the crypto community, I guess we'll call it the crypto community, in the Bitcoin community, who are also on Gary Gensler's side here. They're very disappointed.
Surprising. It's very surprising. I never thought I'd saw that. I used to be in the anti-war movement. I still am. And I was always surprised that people would just switch. They become pro-war based on whether their party was pro-war or not. And yeah, it's a really, really, really bad take by, and I always make sure to note that it's a subset of Bitcoiners. You know, I'm a Bitcoiner,
Yes.
you're a Bitcoiner, Udi's a Bitcoiner, there's a lot of Bitcoiners. And then there's a subset of kind of maximalists and a subset of that. And then a subset, you know, you have maximalists like Giacomo Zucco and others who completely, you know, they can't stand any other coin, but they don't want the government to be the one to enforce that. And that's the, I think, wise opinion. It's totally antithetical to Bitcoin ideals, free markets, and in my opinion, cypherpunk values. If you say, you know, the government should, you know, stop this instrument from trading. You know, that's not what free markets are about. You can get into the legal question of, you know, is it a security or not under the law? That's one question. But, you know, the bigger one is, should these laws even exist? And should the government be in the position of stopping XRP or Bitcoin Cash or BSV for that matter, or anything else? You know, should the government, I say no, it's not a legitimate role of government. The only legitimate role of government would be, you know, if anything, would be limited to protecting people from fraud. You know, if somebody outright fraud, defrauds somebody.
Exist. Right, and those
Those
laws
already
exist.
exist. And so did theft. Theft's another thing. You know, hacking obviously should be illegal. If somebody hacks and steals your coins, that should be illegal, but it already is. You know, theft and fraud are illegal. There's not much else that the SEC does. And all the SEC was supposed to do is just make things work right and help protect in fraud and help capital formation. That's what it was originally designed for. It's like, hey, let's help more American companies go public. That's what it's in its original mission, if you look back.
Right. We've talked about this at length on Spaces. Obviously, you've been registered. You talk about with FINRA for decades. You more than anyone probably in this space, you know what hurdles and obstacles and headaches come with being fully registered. But you haven't always been quote unquote anti-SEC, right? I mean, you've seen a lot of good that the SEC has done for transparency and things like that. So it's really about this SEC for you this moment, right?
Yeah, you know, I'm a libertarian ANCAP, so I'm not in favor of any kind of government regulation in general. And when I was running for Senate and all through, you know, my advocacy over the last, you know, couple decades, I've always been in favor of cutting government agencies. But the SEC honestly wasn't one of the ones high on the list. There's a whole bunch of ones that historically have been much more worse and invasive and are much larger. And honestly, as a professional, even as a libertarian, you know, under the thumb of the SEC for 30 years, I never really had a problem with them. I mean, you know, for most of my career, what they did is they you know, just like I don't have a problem with the state police in New Hampshire. I never interact with them. The state police has given me zero hassles about anything ever in my life in New Hampshire. Nothing. I never interacted with them in any negative way. As far as I know, all they're doing is, you know, capturing bad guys, which is exactly what police are supposed to do. And SEC for 90% of my career, that's what it was. It's like, oh, these are the ones who go after scammers. Well, now they don't go after scammers. Now they go after kind of everybody. They go after political opponents. They go after people they don't like. And mainly they spend a lot of their effort going after people who didn't dot the I's or cross the T's on paperwork. And even worse, inventing new paperwork that nobody could even comply with, like Coinbase's case, where they're saying, you know, just something that they've completely pulled out of thin air to try and gain political points rather than actually try and stop scammers or try and protect the public or help with capital formation, which is what their mission is.
You mentioned that as a regulated entity that you would immediately now be theoretically utilizing Ripple. What does that actually, or XRP, what does that actually look like from your perspective now in context of this regulatory regime? How would you use it? What do you have to do to say that you're going to be able to use it? What would you know?
So we have the rules are still quite clunky. We have a registered broker dealer called Watchdog Capital, and that company is registered with the SEC, so can do registered listed securities, either private securities, you know, companies that are not publicly traded yet, or companies that are public, like, you know, Coinbase or Tesla or Google or whatever. And then we because none of those companies, no regulated SEC company is allowed to really work with any kind of crypto, including Bitcoin. So you have to do it through a separate entity. So that's how Robinhood and Fidelity and other registered firms like us, they do it through a separate entity. So we have a separate entity called Watchdog HODL, which does Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. And now that we know for sure that XR, I'm a big believer in open markets. And a lot of, this is an interesting point that I know you'll appreciate, because a lot of, you know, this kind of subset of Bitcoiners, they seem to be against markets. And coming from the markets my whole life, all my life, you know, when I first started as a stockbroker, as a teenager, basically, We listed everything. All brokerages list everything. It's just like Walmart or something like that. Your goal as a store is to list every single thing, even if you hate it, even if you can't stand it, even if it's, the worst coin there is out there, you still want to list it because if nothing else, you want to recommend to the person like, hey, Scott, sell that piece of junk and buy some Bitcoin. Yeah. You want them to be able to, you want to provide liquidity to those people who are in the, I'm not going to pick on any particular coin, but whatever the worst coin that you hate the most is, you still want people to be able. So this idea coming into Bitcoin from open markets and having people be like, no, only certain things. If you list, people giving my friend Eric Voorhees a hard time, like you listed junk and therefore you're, I just don't get that mentality at all. As a financial company, I would list every single thing I could. If I could press one button right now and know that I'm not going to have regulatory issues, and I know that I can technically do it, I would list everything. Does that mean I'm going to recommend it? No, I wouldn't recommend Hex, for example, but I would certainly recommend, I would list anything out there, whether you like it or not. I would list it and allow people to buy it and mostly sell it. And I would recommend that they sell it and buy something else in many cases.
And that's been Coinbase's approach, right? They had this we'll list everything approach that Brian Armstrong was pretty outspoken about a couple of years ago. So you're not the only one who thinks that. And I think that's the right approach. Exactly what you said. Let the people trade, man.
And there's no better regulator than the markets. Gary Gensler can't second guess the markets. The markets will work. And a lot of these, so the interesting thing with this argument, this kind of statist argument that you see with this subset of Bitcoiners, my attitude is like, well, what are you worried about? If the SEC allows everybody to list everything and everybody lists it, and I have 5,000 tokens and Coinbase and Kraken and everybody else has 5,000 tokens, what are you worried about? Are you worried about like, oh no, those tokens are just going to take over Bitcoin? They're good because now that somebody allows them to be sold? No, the markets are going to take care of it. It's going to be fine. If something is junk, the markets, the masses are out there. You're out there. The listeners are out there. The people are out there, especially if you can short it. People will sell the stuff, believe in the pricing of the markets. The markets know what stuff is worth, and they're going to price it exactly fairly over time.
I agree. So I know you're not necessarily looking at markets to any great degree, but do you think that this should generally be bullish for the market here? Or what are you thinking when you look at the market at this point? I mean, Bitcoin at this exact moment doesn't look the greatest that it's ever looked, but we did see the massive move on this, basically from 25,000 to 31. That was on the ETF news. And Bitcoin hasn't really moved on the Ripple news at all. We saw a lot of altcoins that had gone down because of the SEC enforcement actions bounce back to where they were, Matic, ADA, kind of the ones you named, Solana that have been named in this. But Bitcoin's done kind of nothing. You've been around a long time. Are you surprised that Bitcoin didn't react to this Ripple news?
Not really. Nothing surprises me too much. I mean, I think some of the people take the money off of Bitcoin to buy some of these other coins. Those buyers are going to be Bitcoin holders. I think overall, and this is also a counter narrative. And I think it's emerging now with people like Udi and others who've kind of talked about this. I think there needs to be a place for kind of this open market idea. I think we can all be, it maybe sounds naive or silly, but I think we can all be friends. I think that we can have this broader industry where we don't look at it like, this adversarial thing. Tribalism doesn't work in investing. In the traditional markets, you don't have the people being like, I'm a Microsoft guy, you're a Tesla. I mean, you do a little bit, a couple people on Twitter, but it's not. Smart investors don't do that. Smart investors are focused on what works. And if somebody, if you're like, okay, I'm a full Bitcoin person and I believe in Bitcoin as the best chain, it's not that effective to sit there hating on some other,
I've always joked about, like, you don't get many gold bugs who are like, you do get gold bugs who are this passionate to some degree, but you don't get them going like Amazon stock is a scam.
Yeah, or silver's a scam. Like, I hate silver. Silver's for losers. Gold's worth 1,000 times more.
Yeah, I like gold, therefore I hate Google.
Yeah, right, exactly. I hope that we'll see more of a kind of rising tides lift all boats. I'd like to go back to more of the 2013 kind of ethos where we viewed it all as one industry. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to accept scams and junk and stuff. Sure, there's junk, of course, but I really do think it is one overall industry that has a lot of connections. And I think that Bitcoin has been helped by altcoins, including Ethereum, and trading and the narrative and defining itself against that. And I think that obviously Ethereum has been helped by Bitcoin and all these other projects. And so I kind of hope this will be a tide that lifts all boats. If it helps with more clarity for something like XRP, I hope that actually helps Bitcoin, because if the industry is healthier, the whole broad industry, and that includes finance or whatever, even people you may disagree with their use case, I think that makes the overall industry a lot healthier. I don't think an industry where some tyrant in offices, concrete offices in Washington is putting his thumb out there and saying there can only be 3 assets, Litecoin, Bitcoin, and whatever. I don't think that's a good world. Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin needs economic freedom to work, and freedom means let people do their stuff, let the markets figure out what things are worth. Don't worry about it so much.
I've made the argument in the past, to much the chagrin of Bitcoiners, or to a lot of controversy, CZ, Brian Armstrong, the guys that are these massive shitcoiners, have brought exponentially more people into Bitcoin than Bitcoiners have. I would also make the argument that Dogecoin and memes and all the things that get people trading this market as speculators, even if 90% of those people disappear, the 10% that stay have learned more about Bitcoin, opened a wallet, and probably that's done more for Bitcoin than angry Bitcoiners.
Absolutely. It's a learning curve. Almost everybody in Bitcoin starts out trading, first they start trying to mine, and then they start trying to trade, and then they try to find the next Bitcoin, and then they wonder who Satoshi is, and then they go through a cycle. And it's similar in the traditional markets. When I was I was lucky enough, because my mom was in the industry. I started as a really, really little kid, but a lot of people have this little kid mentality. Same thing I had when I was 10. I'm like, oh, I want to buy penny stocks because they're cheap. That's what I thought when I was 10. And unfortunately, there's a lot of, 35-year-olds who have the same idea. And so you see it in the traditional markets. And, there's nothing wrong with penny stocks and junk bonds. Let people buy them. But overall, ultimately, people gravitate towards the quality assets. And you have people who look and say, what's the earnings? What's this company do? That kind of thing. And you're going to have the same in this space. And also, you don't want to be too broad of a brush to just say every single thing is always junk. Collectibles are not junk. Collectibles are a multi-billion-dollar industry. I have them all over in the background. I didn't buy any of these NFTs because I think they're ridiculous. I have a really cool piece of art right behind me here that costs a lot less than most NFTs and is worth a lot more. But they still have value. And so do securities have value for sure. Everything's going to be tokenized, Tesla and everything. BlackRock has said that. That's a really, really big deal, by the way.
Bitcoiners like to ignore that part too.
Yeah, so these narratives.
I was having that debate on
even
Twitter.
Safety admits that securities are going to. Even Safety, and we used to debate this a little bit, years ago. But even Safety knows that securities. Securities are securities. Anybody who understands the economy knows that. If you just because you tokenize something, if Elon does what Overstock did, Overstock tokenized part of their publicly traded stock, a several $100 million, sometimes $1 billion company. Tesla could do exactly the same thing. Overstock did it legally under the rules. He could do it on any chain he wants. Ethereum, Bitcoin, he could use Dogecoin. And a lot of people would be really annoyed if he used Dogecoin. But you know what? It doesn't mean that is a junk asset. It's going to have value because Tesla has value, or SpaceX, or whatever he did it with. So, those tokens are going to have value. Collectibles are going to have value. There's probably other things that do, and maybe there'd be more than one kind of form of money. But this is all real early anyway. We might as well experiment, try stuff. I'm not too active with other chains and things, but I'm a big believer in experimentation. I encourage everybody to, go try new things.
Totally agree. Bruce, I'm going to see you on Twitter Spaces in about 50 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Thank you so much for all of your insight and for showing up to dunk on the SEC with me. You're my favorite person to do that with. So anytime I get a chance, here we are. Thanks, man. Awesome. See you in a few minutes. Bye. All right, guys. Obviously, I totally agree with Bruce, the perspective there, and you should show up for Twitter Spaces at 10:15. And now, as you know, on the back half of the show, we've been moving on to trades and traders. Now, somebody said, Jay, where is Carti? He's my idol. Not often do I get to just flat out bring somebody's idol on, but I'm going to do it right now. We don't do the anonymous people very much, but we got Tradeboi Carti, but he does have the psycho. You got the psycho, so you're cool. What's up, man?
Scott, how you been, man? How's it going?
I can't complain unless Bitcoin just dumps here.
Yeah, exactly,
But,
right?
yeah. So, I mean, you're still like, you're trading this 5-minute charts all day, right? As a job. So you're deeper in the weeds on this than I am. I'm going to go ahead and drop your charts on here. What are you looking at right now for Bitcoin, broad strokes?
So Bitcoin, like on the intraday, so in terms of like Bitcoin, I'll trade it intraday, ETH as well, but like the altcoins, unless it's like the top mover of the day, I'll just play them in the higher time frames these days. I've taken a different approach to the market since we last spoke, say 2 years ago or whatnot, maybe 3, on another live stream. Bitcoin right now, I mean, there's not much to tell you. It's heavy.
Yeah.
I don't really like put anything on my charts. It's just like kind of like naked. But like I was short yesterday. We saw this in the bounce, and and for the people watching, if you see a bounce like this, it doesn't make a new high. I mean, you have a pretty like easy invalidation here, right? So if it doesn't make a new high, you're going like this, and then like I guess you target new lows for like a 2% move. But yeah, since I used to be the 1 minute guy, I used to trade a lot in 1 minute. Yeah, maybe Bitcoin I will trade more so in the 1 minute just for scalping in and out. Not now because it's so illiquid, so you can't really make the same moves that you can make when one spoke a few years ago. But I'm pretty bullish. Like even though the market's looking like
Well,
not the best.
this to me is a dip to buy. I'm looking for, I think maybe 28.6 is what I've kind of been looking at for quite a while. But yeah, I'm not, when I say it looks like it's ready to dump, it looks like it's ready to dump to head back up. I just think it needs liquidity. That 31, there's so many wicks above it. To me, it just looks like it's just not ready to go yet.
I feel like it's doing something like this and then right back up. So it'll do something like this. So maybe like a bleed here and then back up. I'm actually looking for something similar like what you just said, more so like this area, like 28 to 28. Let's call it 28.8.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking at.
Yeah, like a lot of people are going to buy these stops, like the equal lows here. There's going to be a lot of bids here. Don't want to buy them when it looks like this, especially on the daily. Not necessarily. I mean, if there's a strong reaction here, I'll find a way to get back in on that 1 minute and place for some upside. But at the moment, I think that's a crowded trade. It's pretty obvious. I mean, actually, lately, it seems like a pretty obvious trade is the one that actually pays. But
that 25,000 was like the most obvious trade everybody was watching for months, and it played out perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Like you wanted to buy like this like area consolidation as previous high here, right? And it came down, and then boom, see you later. So, it's like it's looking pretty. I mean, it's not like every time you think it's going to break down. Like here's a little like alpha for your viewers. Like a range will exist longer than you think, right? So every single time it came down here, I guarantee everybody shorted, right?
Yeah,
everybody shorted, and every time it came up here, everybody longed. For ages, I wanted to like get these swept up here. All right, and the amount of times I got faked out trying to get this, I eventually got it, and it was because of the Ripple news. But yeah, and then the same thing down here. Like you want this area, but I think it's greater to buy it down in this area, like where you have like the consolidation here, the 29, so like 28.8, maybe all the way down to like 27.9, and you catch this, you want to swing it. I don't want to take it on like a 1 minute time frame. Like I'm trying to. So in this part of the cycle, like I'm trying to actually like build, not only my personal, but on like with my firm. For people that don't know, I'm a prop trader, senior trader at a prop firm, and I'm just trying to build bags that I could hold going into like the 2024 halving. I have like a pretty bullish outlook, and I have like a pretty decent macro thesis in my mind that I'm going to play. And so far, all my macro plays have like played out. Like I've been lucky enough like not to be wrong that often. Like I bought the FTX like 16K. Yeah. I bought like Tether FUD. I think like in the low 20s or something like that. I mean,
so you've got a really low cost basis on your longer term bag here.
Yeah, I'm really like focusing like on the longer term bag. Like I want to buy the FUD, unless there's like extreme FUD. But like I've been around this industry so long. Like so when Gary was going after, like all these like crypto companies, and we're seeing that bleed all the way down 25K here. Like I was extremely bullish. Like I was like, this is all coordinated. And like when I do my investment thesis, so like I know you're talking, I come from a trading background, but when I do my investment thesis, because I do invest in bags too in this space. Of course, they're like based off the charts when I'm going to enter and like my invalidations and stuff like that. But it's a lot of it's based on like the news headlines and like how I interpret them. I mean, I compile news headlines every single day that I think would affect all markets, including crypto. And like the FUD of like Gary going after like all these companies, it was way too coordinated in my mind. It was like one after the other after the other. I was like, okay, like this is like just getting ridiculous. It's not like it's a one-off, right? So like it's going to cause panic in the markets. And then what really like gave me confirmation like to buy this area here was like George Soros coming out and saying like he's bullish on crypto. Like I'm not like, I don't want to like come on this show and be like a conspiracy theorist at all, but like George Soros.
Oh, we do that here all the time.
Okay, then in that case, that man is like they snuck that headline in between the FUDs. It was like FUD, George FUD. I was like, man, like this guy is like, he's got to have his hand in the pocket somehow here. And, he was waiting for a dip and now he's in. He said, okay, I'm good. And then the FUD stopped and then we rallied up. So, I mean, like that was like pretty good conviction for me to like make the play. And then
we talking about Fink or we talking about, I didn't even see Soros news. So I didn't know. We're talking about Larry Fink. Yeah.
This is pre-Fink. So it was like during the FUD, we had like Gary going after SEC, DOJ, all this kind of stuff. Gary started going
Coinbase,
after Binance.
Yeah.
SEC going after Binance, SEC going after all these tokens like nonstop. And it was pretty much like, and then they snuck it in like George Soros is bullish on crypto. Like, so if you guys, for the people that aren't listening, I do a newsletter with my prop shop every week. Well, in the summer it's every 2 weeks, but we spoke about this. We snuck in we highlighted the George Soros news like around this area.
It was June 7th. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, so like that they snuck that in a bunch with all that. I'm like, wait a minute, like I remember whether it's true or not. I remember what this guy did during the George Floyd riots, like with the funding and all that kind of stuff. I remember what he did with the British pound. Like this guy's not a good human being, and like to say that he doesn't have his hand in crypto, we know he does. In the bull run, he was like bullish at the top, so he got people wrecked. But like on the way down, he's bullish here. Like George Soros, I'm pretty sure he's in short here. So I'm like, I feel like the FUD was coordinated. It was too easy for me. I bought, and like I also bought like Solana like in the 13s. I was like,
yeah.
Super
so what do you? What alts are you looking at? You said you sort of swing the alts on bigger positions. What are you looking at now, and what's your general vibe on the altcoin market?
Yeah, so like right now on the altcoin market, I'm extremely bullish. I'm so bullish on the alts, but it's like still the market's still PvP, like it's still peer to peer. Like it's low liquidity, and aside from like the coin that's moving the most on the day, I don't know what's a good chart to think of. Like I don't know. Let's look at like XTZ for a second. All right, like
I don't know what's moving the most today. I can show here.
Like no one knows what XTZ is anymore.
Here's kind of the big movers. SUI's up 8%, HBAR 5%, XDC 6%. Link is up, so Link's been performing a bit. Yeah.
So if you go to like these like low the low time frames on some of these charts, like I say now, probably your listeners don't remember like from our day, but this looks like Sega Genesis, like some 8-bit chart. So like I'm not gonna like I wouldn't trade this. I wouldn't have bids on this. But like if you're looking at say like Pepe or like Solana, let's call Solana. Like Solana, I'm super bullish on. I was bullish down here in the 12s for like and the 13s for like on this capitulation for a reason. One, for a few reasons. And like when I do my investments, I also look at like the worst case scenarios. Like how could this go lower aside from price action? And in the Solana's case, the biggest backer of the space committed the second biggest fraud in human history.
That gave us the dip.
Yeah, and it didn't go to zero. And then, all the guys that were bullish on this space, on Solana, would chill it nonstop, like the Matty, like the Sino Capitals, like the multi coins, like these guys got wiped out on FTX. So all the guys that were like super, like if you want to call them good or bad actors, on your opinion, like the shillers are gone because they've trusted FTX since there was Sam. And it's like the third biggest used chain after Bitcoin and ETH. So like, why wouldn't this exist? Like, if you go on TikTok, like all these kids, like when they're around, they talk about Solana NFTs more than they talk about ETH NFTs just because of the gas fees. So like, I mean, like they'll come back eventually. So it's just a good mindset to like buy something like this down that low and look what happened. I mean, we saw like,
yeah, but when you say you're super bullish on the alts right now, you mean like we go into a full-blown multiple 10x type alt season, or you're looking to scalp them?
No scalping. Like, I mean, I have like my, like if something's like moving like crazy on the intraday, I'm going to scalp them. But like, I have like certain coins that I'm adding to like a bag with size. So I have like Solana, I have Pepe, which I'm going to like, I mean, it looks like it's at like support here, but I would buy it all the way down, like every dip. Like everybody hates this website with a passion. NFTs are in capitulation right now. So that's why I want to buy Blur. People are like saying nonstop.
Would you actually buy any NFTs? Like, would you buy an ape when they're 20 something floor, or you 100%. Just focus on the coins that are associated?
No, 100% I would buy. Listen, that they always find a way to give money to like their community, even though like their community is kind of a bit of a cult in my mind. But
that's what you need if you're going to make money.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so is Pepe, right? And so is Solana to their own degrees.
100%. Like I consider like
on the ape floor.
I consider the apes like either the Bitcoin or the ETH of NFTs, or now you can call it the punks like the Bitcoins because they're like the OGs, and then like the ETH is like the apes. So if those start spiking up, all the other NFTs will spike up again, and then like this should spike up. Like this is the only exposure you have to the NFT market, like for like the biggest marketplace aside from OpenSea. Like they don't have a token, right? So that's why I want to look at this. Even though like the market cap is a bit high, like I don't see why it can't come back to at least like 80 cents. And I've shared it publicly. I'm buying every dip. And then like, so like yeah, for my bags that I'm looking at, like I'm bullish on the alts just because like I know how this space works. Like, and if you just look right now, like everybody's shilling Rollbit, right? And
yeah,
it's a casino, but like this whole entire industry, aside from like, let's call it Bitcoin, is a casino. So the money is always going to come in here and the money always flows down. And I've tweeted it. I have it. I used to have it as my pinned tweet and now it's in my highlights. Like 2 years ago, I knew this ETF thing was going to happen eventually with the big boys. I didn't expect BlackRock to come in, to be honest. But like now that BlackRock and Vanguard are coming on the ETF, like in my mind, this ETF will pass. Like the BlackRock will pass. They just have way too much political power for it to not pass. Like I mean, they're rebuilding Ukraine, so I mean that helps the Democratic cause, and like they're big Democratic donors. I don't see why they wouldn't get passed, but I'm not a lawyer or an expert, but I have a pretty strong gut feeling. And then so once those guys come in, like you have like the Vanguards and BlackRock. The rest are irrelevant to my mind, but those two. Like the volatility that we see in Bitcoin will like cease to exist. It'll trade like the S&P, like the ES.
I agree. They're going to just flatten it.
Yeah, it'll be like, I mean, you'll have your like crazy moves on news or whatnot, but like in terms of like extrapolating like alpha from or like making money on this or like positive EV positions will be way harder. It's just gonna be like because their algorithms are better than any like human that exists, and their algorithms are better than the algorithms that exist in crypto right now. And like Citadel's coming in too. So like once you put all three of those together, like the volatility is done. Like it's going to trade like gold or like the ES. And yeah, you can make money, but it's not going to be worth trading. So like the average participant, like they're not going to trade the ETF, but the money's going to like just flow downwards, right? So, and we always know that like if Bitcoin were to go to like 40K today, like even though let's say it was ETF related, like the alts would eventually see money because you get retail back in and they think to themselves like, sorry for those beeping, it's just like a news terminal. You would see like nonstop like retail just funneling down, the mainstream media picking it up. You go back on TikTok and you see like the kids talking about crypto again, and like money would just flow down. Like the meme season, we had like a little hiccup of it, like a bit new money entered the space, but like imagine like the meme coin season across all the alts because there's no way.
I mean that's just the old school alt season, right? I mean, we used to see that.
Exactly.
People forget like how aggressive it was when shit you'd never heard of. It was like 20x in a day.
The best.
That's how it used to be.
Man, I remember in 2017, you just threw a dart at a board and like you made 5x.
Yeah, I would buy 50 things, and then when they went up 10x, I would just sell and buy something else that hadn't moved. That was literally my entire strategy.
Yeah, and 2021 was in my opinion harder than 2017. Yes, I know they're printing infinite money, but like in terms of the easy of making money in crypto, 2017 was a joke compared to 2021. Yeah, 2021 we still had those crazy like flushes because all the altcoins were on like USDT pairing, whereas like
Yeah,
In
back then it was
2017
only
when I had been
Bitcoin
there.
pairs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Yeah.
And
But then like, so that's why, so the money's just going to flow down. And then like, then that's when I start looking like certain narratives that I think would have like a rally into the next cycle. So I have like a friend of mine very close who's made the most amount of money in crypto that I know. I'm not going to like share his name, but of like all the people that I know in real life, he's made the most amount. And like, he's American, and one of the banks that he uses like stopped servicing him because of like, the crypto exposure or whatnot.
yeah,
And it just infuriated him because he has like so much money with them. He has like mortgages through them, everything, like, because he does like real estate investments as well. And he's like, listen, like going into like he's in crypto. He's not like just like a non-crypto user. He's like been around just as long as us. And he says, listen, you know what? Like my portfolio, like I'll always continue to trade just so I have something to do during the day. And like he loves the markets. The guy's like married. He's like, he just loves them like nonstop. He just talks about them all the time, which is great. But he says like he diversified his portfolio into real estate for like investment properties. And then he made a pretty good comment to me, which I didn't think about this, but because the banking issue really doesn't affect me where I live, but like it affected him. And I imagine it affects a lot of people. He's like,
yeah, in America for sure.
exactly. He's like, I don't trust the banks. So like, I'd rather just buy like I'd rather just stake ETH and earn 5% a year. And like, he's like, I could just hedge the returns if I have to. If I think the market's bearish. And it made like, I never thought of it like that, but he's like, I still get 5%. It'd be sometimes the same thing as you'd earn in real estate.
The same mentality as buying treasuries. You get 5%
He's like,
for free.
Exactly. So like the treasuries, but those yields won't always be around treasuries. I don't know if the ETH yield is always going to be around 5%, but having said that, that made like a pretty good like idea in my mind. And because of that, like I'm bullish on like the liquid staking DeFi. So like guys who like take that and like like earn like leverage their staked ETH and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's going to have
so you're bullish on DeFi. I feel the same way. I got to pack it in and get ready to head over to Spaces, but just to,
this is the last one I'll talk about, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead. Last one.
So we saw like Pendle go to like Binance. This is the same concept. Staked ETH, liquid staking DeFi, low market cap. Unless I'm not trying to shell like a coin, like I own this, so I will say I own it. So please don't buy it. But I do like, I do believe like a coin like this, like LBR, would be worth like a speculative play in a portfolio of, let's say, under 1%. And then you just see what the upside is. So if it goes to zero, then like you lost 1%, less than 1%, you don't care, But I'm super bullish, Scott. I know like every market's
like it.
Pullback,
me too.
But like it's coming, man. Like the next wave is coming.
Awesome, man. I couldn't agree more. So damn, tons of alpha there, man. You rattled it off. I really appreciate that. Now we let you go back to scalping the 1 minute charts on Pepe. Just kidding. So guys, everybody follow Tradeboi Carti on Twitter. It's just it's Twitter. It's /Tradeboi Carti, right?
It's at Tradeboi Carti 16.
Guys, go follow him. Oh, 16. That's right. Tons of alpha. One of my favorite people to follow. And we chat in the background quite a bit. So incredible perspective, man. Thank you for coming on, sharing your views.
Thanks so much, buddy. Have a good day.
You too. All right, guys. Now we got to head over, get ready for Twitter Spaces, because the party never stops, even on a day when there's no actual news. Of course, you got to go check out MELD. Look, we had the banner up and everything. There's a bannery thing. Check them out, get a bunch of free stuff. But yeah, you can actually earn yield. Actually, on Sunday, so 2 days ago, I put out a podcast conversation with Ken Alling from MELD. He's the CEO. He's awesome, and you should just listen to that, right? We talked about not really just about MELD, but about the future of DeFi and understanding the risk in yield. The yield is still a good thing, but you have to choose and understand the risk of doing it. Has to be transparent, and you have to hold your own keys and hold your own assets. It has to be non-custodial. So just check that out. Do it. Check it out. Otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace. Bye. Later. See ya. Vamos.
That's dope.